So listen to this. It's almost impossible to understand how a player who was never meant to be a star became the most important midfielder of his generation. But to really feel the magnitude of this story, you have to start with a simple truth. N'Golo Kanté never once believed he would become a professional footballer, let alone a Premier League champion, a Champions League conqueror, a World Cup winner, or the heartbeat of every team he touched. And yet somehow, this soft-spoken, humble, almost invisible figure became one of the most dominant forces modern football has ever seen. And the craziest part is how ordinary he always seemed on the surface. Imagine this. A man who placed 8th in the Ballon d'Or once rushed out of a Premier League match not to celebrate, not to party, not to hide from the cameras, but simply to try to catch a train to see his family. And when he missed it, instead of complaining or calling a driver like every superstar does, he quietly searched for a nearby mosque and went there to pray, only to end up accepting an invitation from complete strangers who asked him if he wanted to join them for dinner, and within an hour, the same man who humiliated the best midfielders in the world was sitting on the couch in a tiny living room, eating curry, playing FIFA, and laughing like he wasn't one of the most admired athletes on the planet. Because deep down, that's who Kanté is. A man who never grew out of his humility. A man who never expected greatness. A man who never once saw himself as special, even when the entire world screamed it at him. In 1998, while France celebrated their first World Cup title, little Kanté walked the streets alongside his father, collecting metal and glass recyclables to earn a bit of money. And when his father tragically passed away a few years later, that shy small kid continued doing the job alone, walking longer distances, carrying heavier loads, and trying to help his mother and 8 siblings survive the crushing weight of poverty. His teammates back then towered over him. Celebrations often happened without him at the center. And when the biggest youth academy in the country rejected him, Clairefontaine, the same place that produced Thierry Henry and Mbappé, he simply accepted it as normal because in his eyes, he was never the kind of kid meant for a spotlight. But those who watched him every day saw something else. A relentless engine, a spirit that refused to die, a player capable of covering the entire pitch like it was a backyard. By 16, he was competing with grown men in the 9th division, and within a few years he dragged his team upward, carrying them through divisions and even winning a cup against a club far above their level, showing glimpses of what the world would later see on the biggest stages. Still, nobody wanted him. Too small, too quiet, too shy, too unusual. Until US Boulogne took a risk and tested him, only to watch a kid who looked like a marathon runner destroy every physical metric they put in front of him. And even then, his rise was painfully slow. 2 years in the reserves, living humbly, barely speaking, then finally a chance with the first team. And after being named player of the season, he was rejected by multiple clubs again. But that quiet fire in him never went out. And when SMKN saw him, they saw what nobody else did, a hidden masterpiece. Kanté himself didn't think he could play professionally, yet Kahn trusted him blindly. And he rewarded them by playing every single match, winning promotion, dominating the league, and earning the title of Best Newcomer. All without ever demanding attention, without ever acting like a star. At 24, he made his top-flight debut at an age when most modern players are already global brands. And suddenly he found himself sharing the pitch with stars, still riding a scooter to training while others drove luxury cars, still apologizing for bringing chocolates to a birthday party because he had never been invited to one before. Still feeling like an outsider in a world that was about to realize he wasn't just special, he was transformative. His performances were so absurd that Mali wanted him, and he almost accepted because he believed France would never need him. But by then, analysts across Europe were losing their minds over the numbers. He was recovering more balls than entire midfields. Lyon wanted him, Marseille wanted him, West Ham wanted him. But one man, Steve Walsh, saw the truth clearer than anyone. This wasn't a good player. This was a cheat code in human form. Walsh locked Kanté in a hotel, turned off his phone so he wouldn't answer Marseille, marched to Ranieri, and practically begged Leicester to buy him. And €8 million later, the Premier League was never the same. Leicester City, 5,000 to 1 underdogs, a team that in every universe should never touch a trophy, suddenly found themselves with the most unstoppable midfield machine in the league, and Kanté's season was so wildly dominant that experts still struggle to describe it. He led the league in tackles and interceptions. He covered more ground than entire backlines. And at one point, Sir Alex Ferguson literally said he was the best player in the league by far. Leicester completed the greatest miracle in Premier League history, and Kanté didn't celebrate loudly, didn't live in the spotlight, didn't take the credit. He just continued being Kanté. Then came Chelsea, where he won the league again in his first season, becoming the first player since Cantona to win back-to-back Premier League titles with different clubs, destroying Pogba in the FA Cup, earning PFA Player of the Year, French Player of the Year, Chelsea Player of the Year, and yet, through all of that glory, he still acted like the same humble kid collecting cans in the streets of Paris. And then came the World Cup. Kanté ran more than anyone, recovered the ball more than anyone, broke records, dominated midfield battles, and even playing the final while sick. He became the engine that powered France to their second star. He didn't push to hold the trophy. He didn't shout. He didn't demand photographs. He waited quietly until a teammate insisted he step forward. Even scandals couldn't touch him. When leaked documents showed that many stars used offshore schemes to hide money, Kanté's name appeared only because he refused. He literally rejected tax loopholes because it didn't feel right to him. Injuries came later. Doubts, absence, a pandemic that affected him deeply, transfer rumors, a move away from Europe. And yet, at every turn when people tried to write him off, he returned stronger, reminding everyone at the Euros that greatness doesn't shout, greatness doesn't fade, greatness doesn't need hype. Greatness shows up with silence, humility, and impossible consistency. Kanté never chased fame. He never chased status. He never chased superstardom. He chased only one thing: effort, discipline, and quiet excellence. And somehow, against every rule modern football follows, it made him immortal.